Welcome to Wednesday, September 15th, 2021. Here we are right smack dab in the middle of September. But right now, the next 5 days, folks, are going to be beautiful. But this front we've been talking about is going to impact some areas by late Sunday night, especially Montana, Idaho, the Pacific Northwest, northwestern Wyoming, Yellowstone Park, those areas. The biggest impacts from this change will be the Pacific Northwest through Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, western Nebraska, and to some extent Colorado and Utah. But there's going to be a northern bias with this system. Now, very nice weather, though. Today through the weekend is expected. We're going to be able to get most of the weekend in, probably all of it, before the changes come. Mountain snows are looking likely. I think it's a foregone conclusion that the higher mountains of Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, even into Utah and Colorado, there's going to be some high country snow out of this system. Possibly near to below freezing temperatures in the northern areas will be possible with this front. Now, stay tuned. There's going to be quite a bit of discrepancy in the modeling on the overnight low temperatures. We're talking about Tuesday and Wednesday night in particular of next week. So we've got time to get the details sorted out, but we might be below freezing or near freezing in some parts of the Northern Rockies by the middle of next week. So stay tuned. Now, yesterday we talked about the fall colors, and folks are starting to submit their reports and their pictures of the fall colors. Thanks to Linda Snyder, Cedar Creek Canyon, Star Valley Ranch, Wyoming. Just a beautiful shot there, the fall colors changing. And if you get an opportunity, send your fall color report in, whether you live on the plains or in the mountains. Let us know how those fall colors are so folks can pick out maybe the best places to go this weekend, because I think this weekend is going to be a really good opportunity. Send your report to podcast@dayweather.com. Here's today's satellite photos. You can see the remains of Nicholas hugging the Gulf Coast area right here. But boy, look at the west. Severe clear, we call it. There is just nothing going on. That's just going to give us some really nice weather conditions across the western United States. So we get a nice big happy face there for some good weather conditions. And these weather conditions are going to be nice through Sunday. This is why we have high pressure in the southwestern United States and a generally west to east flow that is developing with the jet stream. As you can see, it lines up west to east. So basically, this is going to bring in seasonal temperatures, a bit above average temperatures, as the low that we're going to be impacted by is still way up here north of the Aleutians. And this is something to keep in mind. You always want to track the source region of where the storm's coming from when you talk about the kind of cold air it's going to have. So we're talking about being north of the Aleutians, air basically coming from near the Arctic Circle area up here. So the source region is very cold with this storm system that's going to be affecting us next week. This is by Saturday afternoon. Notice the buckling in the jet stream. The jet stream buckles, and we see this trough off the coast of British Columbia. By this weekend, rains are going to break out along the coastal areas of British Columbia and the coastal areas of Washington, Oregon, and maybe even into far northern areas of California. And then by Monday noontime, the front is through Yellowstone Park, it's through Salt Lake City, it's through Boise, it's through most of Montana, and heading southeast very, very quickly. So we're going to be able to squeeze in the weekend for most of you before the weather begins to change. Then by Thursday of next week, we have a pretty good low with this trough spinning up over the northern plain states, and the trajectory of the air behind it is coming out of the due north. So this is going to be a multiple day storm in terms of its impacts. Multiple days of it being much cooler, and initially as the system comes through, it will be able to produce a fair amount of precipitation. Also, one thing you tend to get with this big change this time of year is you tend to have contrast. These are temperatures relative to average. So red and gray here mean much, much above average temperatures, and this is for Saturday. So along and east of the divide, all the way up into Alberta and Saskatchewan, we are looking at very warm temperatures, but look at the contrast. See this line? This is the front. A huge demarcation here between colder than normal and warmer than normal. And when you see a contrast like that, that this is a testament to how strong the front is. So you'll get a big push of warm air before the big push of colder air. That means it's going to be a pretty darn warm weekend for the northern Rockies and central high plains, while the weekend starts to see the cooler weather here in the Pacific Northwest. But look at what happens by Tuesday. The expansion of the cold just explodes, and that warmer air gets pushed into the upper Great Lakes and southeastern areas of Canada. And this is where you're looking at temperatures 20 to 25 degrees or more below average by the noon hour. This is by the noon hour on Tuesday. Precipitation could be pretty good. Look at this heavy moisture here in the Dakotas, across southern Montana and northeastern areas of Wyoming. Could be some really beneficial moisture here. And look at the Pacific Northwest and look at the central and northern Sierras. This will hit the fire areas, so this is really good news. We're getting more confident that the northern and central Sierra Nevada will get some good moisture out of this system. And then colder weather and showers will spread across the northern plains. But I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, there's a northern bias. North and south of I-70 is kind of the dividing line. North of I-70 is where the biggest impacts will be. South of I-70, the impacts aren't going to be as intense. So it'll be mainly northern and northwest Colorado and northern areas and northeastern areas of Utah impacted the most, and then points north from there. Snowfall, look at that. Even the Black Hills. The Black Hills, we kind of need to watch that. The latest trend in the modeling is it cold enough for the Black Hills to possibly have an early fall snow event, as well as the Bighorn Mountains, the Yellowstone Mountains, Grand Teton National Park, then all the way down into the central mountains of Colorado. We'll see a taste of snow out of this system. Have yourself a great Wednesday. We'll have an update for you tomorrow on the big changes coming early next week. In the meantime, we're just going to coast along here with some really nice weather conditions for the next several days.